Hello and welcome back to another video or audio if you're listening in an audio format. My name is Justyna. Welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer or listener, welcome back and thank you for joining me today. So here, welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscopes. There's so much happening that I'll cover the main events. We've got several planets stationing retrograde and Saturn finally stationing direct. Uranus moving back into Taurus, Mercury retrograde, which is also a huge highlight of this month, along with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. So lots of different energies. Apart from this, Mars moves into Sagittarius as well. So very different vibe to Mars in Scorpio, of course. So lots of different energies this month. And we'll see how they will influence each zodiac sign on a deeper level. So as always, you can find the timestamps in the comment section and description box down below this video. So thank you very much and let's begin. All right, so hello Aries and welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So we start this brand new month with your ruler Mars changing signs and moving into Sagittarius, into your area of expansion and into your area of foreign travel, higher learning, life philosophy. So throughout the month of November, you'll feel this massive push of motivation to expand your horizons, to expand your wisdom, to travel, to engage in activities that can help you to grow, that can help you to spread your wings as well. So it's a wonderful time for learning, for studying. Of course, Mercury will be retrograde this month as well. So you might find yourself returning to some studies, courses, learning materials from the past, things you didn't have a chance to complete, traveling to places that you have already been before, but places that perhaps you have a personal connection to. But overall, this is an amazing time when to invest your energies in things connected to personal growth, development overall. And here, under the influence of Sagittarius, there's a huge, strong need to expand, to explore. So, something to watch out for is perhaps try to avoid rushing or perhaps over committing to things that perhaps you're not sure about, because enthusiasm is really high with Mars and Sagittarius in the ninth house. But here, at times, patience might be needed, especially with small details, logistics, or maybe even culture differences if you're going to be traveling to different locations. Now, on November the 5th, we've got a full moon in the sign of Taurus. So this full moon activates your second house of finances, resources, and your income. The second house is the area of life connected to how we earn money through our own skills and efforts. And this is happening at 13 degrees of Taurus. All right, so first of all, here with a full moon happening here, you might see some results, outcomes from past efforts, perhaps some financial rewards, purchases, or at the same time, you might have a better clarity of where or where is it that you stand financially speaking. Now, this is also a great full moon for reviewing your spendings, your savings, and perhaps for some this could be connected to a potential side hustle, a side business. So whatever the scenario, this full moon fully highlights your need for establishing a greater, more solid sense of financial security, stability. And at the same time, with the moon, the full moon being here, try to think also what truly gives you comfort. What contributes to that sense of stability. Now, on the 8th, on the other hand, we've got Uranus leaving Gemini, moving into your second house for the very last time. Probably in your lifetime, unless you are still in the very early stage of your life. But overall, here Uranus is moving back into Taurus. So here into your second house. So your second house is yet again activated, highlighted here with Uranus moving back to this area of your life. And this energy, this transit, this retrograde signals the end of a period of unpredictability regarding your income, regarding your money situation, your values. So, what you might see taking place in the upcoming months, there could be some sudden changes or some surprises in finances, perhaps in your income situation and your financial security, stability. Overall, whatever the scenario, you now have the chance to consolidate lessons that you've learned over the last 7 years. At the same time, this energy can help you to stabilize your material stability and security, financial security and stability in your life. Mercury turns retrograde in Sagittarius also on the same day, on the 9th, until the 29th of the month. However, here it will start in Sagittarius, it will retrograde back into Scorpio. So we've got two signs activated. It starts in Sagittarius, it ends in the sign of Scorpio. So it moves into Scorpio on the 19th. But overall, here with Mercury being retrograde in this area of your chart, so this is a time when you might experience potentially some travel delays. Maybe it's not a good time for signing any contracts because there could be there's a tendency towards perhaps having or experiencing some kind of contract misunderstandings. For example, if you have to make sure you read the small print, make sure you familiarize yourself with the terms and condition. This is a good time for taking reattempting a test, an assignment, an exam. It's a good time for reviewing, reassessing your educational plans. It's a good time for reviewing your travel plans as well, for returning to any study materials from the past, for example. Generally, retrogrades are great for reviewing, reassessing, redoing, not necessarily for starting something brand new from scratch. So avoid signing new major agreements if you can, especially related to international business affairs, international matters, higher learning. Try to delay them until after Mercury turns direct on the 29th. This retrograde could also make you review, reassess your life direction, your life philosophy, your belief system as well. Now, during this retrograde, you might also find yourself reconnecting with people, with friends, international connections, for example. All right, so we've got a new one in Scorpio happening on November the 20th. And this is activating your area of transformation, the area of regeneration, joint and shared resources. So this is happening at 28 degrees of Scorpio. And this is a really powerful time for transformation and for healing as well. New moons are great for new beginnings, of course, but at the same time, Mercury is retrograde at this point. So this is a wonderful time for healing, for releasing any old fears, for reviewing your financial situation. So especially any debts and any financial entanglements as well. Now, this new moon could see you initiating something new in the weeks following this new moon. Perhaps this could be connected to some joint ventures in the area of finance. This could be also connected to possible therapy, shadow work, and a great time for letting go, releasing of any emotional patterns that no longer serve you. With the new moon in Scorpio in in the eighth house, this is a time of a rebirth, regeneration as well, finding spark in the area of life that lost its spark and purpose. But lots of I think there's a lot of psychological growth highlighted here as well. Now, Saturn stations direct in Pisces on the 28th of November, so pretty much at the very end of the month, and this is happening at 25 degrees of Pisces. All right, so this is happening in your 12th house, and the 12th house deals with endings, subconscious patterns, spiritual growth and development. So this event, so when Saturn stations direct, in this area of your chart, this is very much connected to your inner world, your any inner work that you have been doing in the recent past. So the way this could manifest, it could manifest in you seeing a really significant progress when it comes to any healing work, any inner work, shadow work that you may have done in the recent past. And this could also see you releasing, letting go of any emotional baggage as well. You might feel much lighter once Saturn stations direct in Pisces. And at the same time, you might see that any difficult situations, some challenges, some karmic patterns may eventually start to resolve gradually, allowing you to move forward with more clarity, with more confidence, with more ease. And finally, the final event for the month is Mercury stationing direct in the sign of Scorpio, and this is happening at 29 degrees of Scorpio. Sorry, this is happening on the 29th of November at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So, what does it mean? This generally means that when Mercury stations direct, this is when things tend to, or the energies tend to resume. There is a forward momentum. And this is when clarity returns, especially here in this case scenario, to matters connected to shared finances, generally your financial situation, especially when it comes to any loans, mortgages, your credit card statements, any partnerships, intimate relationship as well. And at the same time, this is also a good time to finalize any plans connected to any financial agreements, for example, or any partnerships as well. And here, these are overall the energies of November. We'll go more in depth during the weekly horoscopes, but thank you very much, Aries. And let's have a look at Taurus. Taurus, welcome. All right, so we start with Mars entering Sagittarius, and this is happening on the 4th of November in your area of the 8th house, the area of transformation, intimacy, shared and joint resources. So, generally throughout the month of through the month of November, sorry, while Mars remains in this area of your chart, you might feel this really strong drive, motivation to take charge of your debt if you have debt, if you have any debts, investments, joint finances, for example, partnerships. This is also a time to deal with a good time for dealing with any intense emotional or perhaps psychological matters or issues that have been on your mind in your life. For example, be mindful of any potential power struggles, or be mindful of making any impulsive financial moves. Generally, November, be cautious with when it comes to any investments or making any sudden, drastic financial decisions, moves, because Mercury is retrograde in this area of your chart. So this is a month to generally to review, proceed with caution overall. Now we've got a full moon in Taurus happening on the 5th of November, and this full moon is happening in your first house of the self, and this is happening at 13 degrees of the sign of Taurus. So the spotlight is on you, of course. This is the area, the first house deals with physical appearance, your personal goals, objectives, ambitions for the future, your identity. So here during a full moon, we have a better clarity, a greater awareness of the situation that is taking place in our life. You may experience a moment of like a breakthrough in a way of some major events, circumstances taking place in your life. And at the same time, you might also realize what needs your attention at this time, what you need to prioritize, what truly matters. So this is a time to also redefine your goals, your objectives. You might feel like you want to change something in your physical appearance, in your style, for example. So this is an amazing full moon for personal reinvention, for a certain degree lifestyle changes, or perhaps some physical appearance changes as well. Now, Uranus leaves Gemini on November the 8th, and it moves back into your first house. So here, this is the very last time Uranus will be dipping back into Taurus before it fully establishes itself in the sign of Gemini in 2026. So this transit signals the end of a period of sudden changes in self-image, or your identity, for example, and your life story. So generally, any lessons, experiences from events, especially those surprising, unexpected events that took place in your life in the last 7 months, more or less, or perhaps things that people, situations, decisions that influenced your decisions over the last 7 years, or perhaps influenced or changed your direction in one way or another, can now begin to settle. So you might gradually feel more grounded and more ready to move forward with a renewed sense of self. Now, Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius, and this is happening on the 9th of November and until the 19th in Sagittarius, from the 19th to the 29th in the sign of Scorpio. This retrograde starts at 6th degree of Sagittarius, and it's going to take place in your area of the eighth house, the house of shared and joint resources, debts, transformation, intimacy. So here with Mercury retrograde, this isn't a good time for making any sudden big moves, decisions, especially here, financial decisions. It's not a good time for starting anything brand new. And overall, try to avoid rushing any financial agreements or making any sudden rushed decisions, especially about any investments or joint ventures. Even sometimes things feel like so good and irresistible, but here Mercury retrograde is not great for starting anything brand new from scratch. It's better to review, reassess, return to ideas, goals that were unfulfilled or not completed in the past. And it's a good time for also reviewing your finances, especially any shared finances or contracts. This is also a good time for having some deep conversations with someone who's very close to you. So overall, this is also a good time for diving deeper into matters, topics that you're not fully, perhaps that you don't have full clarity on. For example, this energy can help you to uncover some hidden aspects of certain topics that perhaps of your interest. And all right, so overall here we've got a new moon we've got a new moon happening in the sign of Scorpio on the 20th of the month. And this is happening in your seventh house of relationships, unions, contracts. So new moons, of course, are great for new beginnings, but of course, we've got Mercury retrograde at this time. So keep this in mind, of course, but at this point, we will have Mercury retrograde in Scorpio as well. So you might find yourself reconnecting with some people from the past during this time. It's a perfect time overall for setting intentions around relationships, collaborations, partnerships, for example. It's a very transformative time for having honest, authentic, balanced conversations with those close to your heart. And at the same time, it's a good time also for renegotiating, for reviewing any agreements, for finding for clarifying mutual expectations, for clarifying things that perhaps you're not sure if you're on the same page overall. So yes, new beginnings, a fresh start of some kind in your relationships, partnerships, but maybe this could be like a second, about a second chance or reattempt to perhaps a second go at starting something like a mutual project of some kind. Then on the 28th of November, Saturn stations direct in the sign of Pisces. So that's happening on the 28th of November. And this is happening at 25 degrees of Pisces. So here, this is your 11th house of friendships, your networks, long-term goals as well. So a forward momentum without a doubt. And generally, if you experienced any delays in any group projects, personal goals, for example, and you think if perhaps some people, friends, kind of disappeared from your reality temporarily, you will now see that generally the energies are moving forward, connections that you truly, with people that you truly align with, energetically speaking, for example, or any group projects, personal goals. And there is a forward momentum happening without a doubt. But at the same time, this is also a chance to take your social and professional ambitions, goals more seriously. And you will have a better clarity of the people in your life, the connections in your life, your goals as well. So perhaps you might find yourself letting go of some expectations you might had towards others or yourself. Perhaps you'll be redefining your goals, and you'll be more realistic and more clear about what's possible, what's achievable at this point in your life. And finally, on the 29th of November, Mercury turns direct in the sign of Pisces. And this is happening, of course, in your 11th house as well. So here, Mercury turns Mercury turns direct in the sign of Scorpio, and this is happening at 20 degrees of Scorpio. All right, so here we've got a forward momentum, without a doubt, happening in your seventh house of partnerships, negotiations, collaborations. So with Mercury changing direction and regaining its strength, this is when clarity returns. And overall, this you may find that certain conversations or agreements, for example, with partners, business partners, clients, can now proceed, move forward more smoothly. And any issues that were left unresolved during the retrograde phase of Mercury can now be finalized, especially here in business or in some close relationships, for example. All right, so this is what I've got for you, Taurus. Thank you very much. And let's have a look at Gemini's. Gemini's, welcome to your November monthly horoscope. All right, so this month we've got Mars changing signs. Mars is moving into Sagittarius on November the 4th. So here, Mars in Sagittarius, that's your seventh house of partnerships, collaborations, close one-to-one connections. So what does it mean for you? Mars brings a lot of energizing energy, so you might feel really, really stimulated, motivated to generally engage in some mutual projects, for example. This could be perhaps there could be some partnership opportunities coming up, or perhaps some client relationships. Perhaps you'll be dealing with some contracts, agreements. Generally, with Mars in the seventh house, you become more assertive as well within one-to-one connections, one-to-one relationships. Of course, be mindful of any new contracts, new agreements in the month of November, because Mercury will be retrograde. But at the same time, with Mars is very passionate and dynamic. So also be mindful of any conflict or power struggles throughout the month of November. This is generally try to channel this energy, that Martian energy, into something constructive dialogue, for example, rather than expectation, because overall Mars in Sagittarius in the seventh house can bring some really exciting opportunities in your personal life as well as in your professional life, especially when it comes to any partnerships, collaborations, for example. Now we've got a full moon happening in the sign of Taurus on November the 5th. So here, this is happening in your 12th house at 13 degrees of Taurus. So a little bit of introspective energy here. The 12th house deals with endings, shadow work, spiritual works, subconscious patterns as well. So this is a really powerful moment, full moon, if you will, to process any hidden emotions. It's generally a time, a good full moon to finding some time for peace and quiet, for withdrawing at least for a couple of hours to collect your thoughts. Generally, solitude during a full moon in the 12th house can generally help you to clear any mental clutter you're dealing with, or it can help you to release any past burdens, any confusing emotions, for example, as well. So it's a good time for journaling, for meditation, for therapy sessions, for example, for spending time in nature. And generally try to avoid making any major decisions based purely on some subconscious fears, limiting thoughts you might be experiencing around this time. Because here, generally, reflection, contemplation is really significant because it gives you the much needed clarity. So keep this in mind. All right, so as we move forward, November the 8th, Uranus leaves Gemini, moves into Taurus. Again, in your 12th house, it's highlighted. So this is the very last time Uranus is dipping back into Taurus until it permanently moves into the sign of Gemini. So this overall marks the end of a period of internal restlessness, that erratic energy that could have brought those internal restless energies, ups and downs, if you will, maybe some sleeping disruptions as well. So generally what you might experience in the upcoming months with Uranus spending its final phase here of this retrograde in the sign of Taurus before it fully establishes itself in your first house of Gemini. So you might experience some deep and surprising even internal shifts. Your dreams might be very vivid and also full of maybe some kind of futuristic and unusual images, for example, and at the same time, it you might feel more settled gradually. You'll gain or regain the clarity you may have lacked and the peace of mind as well. So generally, this energy could lead to a certain degree of emotional freedom, and this is because the subconscious energy will begin to stabilize gradually. So this is a chance to also allow yourself to move forward with that renewed sense of inner peace, inner alignment, if you will. Now, here Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius on November the 9th until the 29th, but here it starts in Sagittarius, it ends in Scorpio. Now, this retrograde starts on the 9th, as I mentioned just a moment ago, at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So here, this is your seventh house. This is a chance for you to review, reassess your partnerships, any contracts, important contracts in your life, for example. You might find yourself reconnecting with people you haven't spoken or seen for quite some time. However, you might also experience communication delays, and misunderstandings may arise with partners or clients or perhaps some collaborators. So keep this in mind as well. This is a good time for generally revisiting, reviewing, reassessing any relationship agreements, client agreements, for example, tenancy agreements. It's a good time for renegotiating terms, for clarifying your expectations rather than initiating something new, like new deals, new contracts, for example. So use this retrograde to reflect, review, reassess generally any relational themes, patterns, and also think how they affect your sense of self, your own life progress, your personal growth and development. Now, on the 20th, we've got a new moon in Scorpio happening in your sixth house, and this new moon will be taking place at 28 degrees of Scorpio. At this point, Mercury is already also here in this area of your life. So new moons are great for new beginnings, but we've got Mercury retrograde as it happens. So it's a good time for generally for self-improvement, for improving your work habits, your health routines, for example. It's for generally here for think what kind of affects your ability to be productive on daily basis. How can you perhaps restructure your daily routine, your schedule to manage your time more effectively? So generally, these sixth house new moons are great for reassessing, reevaluating your daily life, daily routine, your daily schedule, and it's generally a good time for addressing any hidden dynamics, hidden issues affecting your productivity, time management as well. All right, so Saturn stations direct in Pisces at 25 degrees of Pisces on November 28th in your 10th house. So here we've got this massive change of direction, shift, energetical shift in your 10th house of career, public image, long-term goals. So here there's a career momentum taking place, and which is very exciting for many, I suppose. But this also indicates that perhaps any commitments, responsibilities, goals, objectives in your public life, professional life will now begin to gain a momentum, a forward momentum with more clarity, more structure as well. So this is when, remember, Saturn rewards hard work, determination, consistency. So this is when hard work and persistence begins to pay off. So Saturn here brings more stability, structure, and rewards, depending on how much effort as well you put into this area of your life in the recent past. And finally, on November the 29th, we've got Mercury stationing direct, and this is happening in the sign of Scorpio. So I told you earlier that this retrograde starts in Sagittarius and it ends in the sign of Scorpio. So Mercury stations direct at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So what does it mean? Your sixth house here. So this energy, this change of direction here. So of course, it's a forward momentum. The energies begin to kind of resume, if you will. So this Mercury direct brings more clarity when it comes to your work, your routine, your health habits, for example, and generally any miscommunication, misunderstandings that you may have experienced at your work or with a coworker in your daily life, they will begin to resolve. And it's a good time for implementing any improvements. Perhaps if you notice that what's working, what isn't in your daily reality, it's a good time for implementing these necessary steps to generally establishing a greater sense of fulfillment in this area of your life. And perhaps you might also find yourself finalizing some projects, deadlines, dealing with some deadlines, agreements with colleagues as well. So thank you very much, Geminis, and let's have a look at Cancers. All right, so hello, Cancers, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for November 2025. So as we begin this brand new month, Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation, moves into the sign of Sagittarius, and this is your sixth house of work, health, daily life, daily routines. All right, so this energy gives you a lot of motivation to become more productive. So to improve your productivity, to become more organized in your daily life, in your daily reality. This energy gives you a lot of motivation to deal with slightly more complex tasks. The sixth house is traditionally associated with the energy of Virgo, so productivity, self improvement, time management. This is all very much highlighted. And with Mars and Sagittarius, you've got the energy, the motivation uh, for 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 generally for improving your sense of productivity, for generally for implementing new health routines as well. Now, something to watch out for: watch for overextension or rushing through responsibilities. Try to pace yourself in order to avoid burnout. And at the same time, it's also a good transit for starting a new fitness routine program, for example, for reorganizing your schedule. And it's generally a time to focus on what truly matters, because this energy, this transit gives you a lot of determination. But of course, we'll have Mercury retrograde in a few days after this transit begins, but I'll explore it in a moment. But in the meantime, on November the 5th, there's a full moon happening in the sign of Taurus. That's November the 5th at 13 degrees of Taurus in your 11th house. So the 11th house deals with friendships, groups, long-term goals, your network. So a full moon is a time of clarity, awareness, culmination. So this full moon could indicate that perhaps you may gain. Generally, this could be about having some strong realizations about certain friendships, connections in your life. This could also see you perhaps if you've been involved in some group project, for example, or if you have been working toward a specific goal, objective, long-term goal, then perhaps whatever you've been working on, it may reach a turning point. And at the same time, this full moon could also make you think more strongly about certain friendships, group associations in your life. Perhaps something needs adjustment. So this full moon is here to illuminate that for you. Now, Uranus returns back into this area of your life, into Taurus, on November the 8th. And that's here basically with Uranus moving back into Taurus. This is the very last time that Uranus will re-enter Taurus. So here with this final re-entry of Uranus into Taurus, into your 11th house, this transit in a way is generally it indicates an end to a period of unpredictability in the area of friendships, groups, network, for example, networks, group activities. So generally the lessons, the experiences that you learned over the last 7, 8 years from unexpected changes that you experienced in your social life, in your professional networks, will now begin to settle gradually. So here, this period, generally, this period that when Uranus was in Taurus, there could have been lots of disruptions. And perhaps beginnings and endings in your friendship area of your life, in the area of groups. This is now coming to an end, giving you space to consolidate connections that are meaningful, that you want to hold on to, for example. And similarly, your goals and long-term dreams, you will find, generally, you find yourself redefining your objectives, long-term goals, because when a planet is in these final degrees of a sign, this is also a time when of letting go what is no longer in alignment, and keeping what's fits in the car of the current reality. Now, Mercury turns retrograde in Sagittarius on November the 9th, and this is going to be until the 29th of November. On the 19th, it moves into Scorpio. So it starts in Sagittarius, it ends in the sign of Scorpio, and that's from the 9th of November at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So here, Sagittarius is your sixth house. So this is where Mars is also present. And the retrograde of Mercury in the sixth house, this is about your work. This is about your daily life, your lifestyle overall. And you might find yourself reviewing, reassessing your daily reality, your routines, your health habits, your eating habits overall. So here in the month of November, try to avoid starting new projects, especially new health regimes, for example, or perhaps some new routines, because once this retrograde is over, you might realize that this is actually not working and I need to move on to something else. So instead, try to focus on reviewing, reassessing to see what's working, what isn't, what needs to change, what perhaps new routines, new habits you need to implement once this retrograde is over. It's a good time for reorganizing, reviewing the existing routines, the existing habits, any new implementations of new habits, routines. It's better to delay them until after the 29th. Now, this retrograde is also great for reassessing your workflow and your work and life balance, for instance, your daily responsibilities, your schedules, see what's working, see what isn't working, for example. Now, at the same time, since the sixth house, of course, deals with our work and our workflow overall, make sure that you communicate as clearly as you can at work in order to prevent any miscommunications, misunderstandings, for example. Now, on the 20th of November, we've got a new moon in the sign of Scorpio happening in your fifth house. So here, this is where also Mercury is retrograde at this point as well, as of the 19th. And this is happening at 28 degrees of Scorpio. So here, the fifth house deals with creativity, romance, children, personal projects as well. So here, this could see you returning to some old goals, interests, projects. It's a really powerful full time for reconnecting with what brings you joy, with what awakens that sense of fun, happiness. You might find yourself also reviewing your parenting style, perhaps some routines, structures in the area of home in terms of any routines with your children, etc. This is also a good time, of course, for reconnecting with your passions, with your interests as well. And at the same time, try to also be mindful of taking any risks during this time. Because Mercury is retrograde, especially when it comes to any personal projects, any creative projects, because overall here you can achieve quite a lot, but perhaps be mindful if starting or implementing something brand new. This is a good chance for you to review what you have already established. So whether this is some interests or projects that have been initiated before this retrograde started, whether this is your parenting style and your routines, structures within your household, and at the same time, it's a wonderful time for reconnecting with those interests and hobbies, something that truly awakens that sense of joy that perhaps you've been missing for quite some time. Saturn turns retrograde on the 28th in Pisces at 25 degrees in your ninth house, so for foreign travel, learning, long-term goals and dreams for the future. So this is a wonderful forward momentum. Saturn has been retrograde for quite some time, and these retrogrades usually last around 4 to 5 months. And here, when a planet stations direct from a retrograde motion, this is when we finally begin to see progress. So the progress that you might see might be in education, travel, long-term goals, objectives, and this is also an amazing opportunity for you to commit to some new projects, ideas, objectives connected to personal growth, personal development, for example. And this might also see you traveling, wanting to travel, engaging in activities, adventures, activities that can help you to spread your wings. But overall, here the progress, things Saturn brings rewards. So if you've been consistently working on a specific goal, project, idea, something to do with your purpose, something to do with your life direction, something to do with your educational objectives, for example, coaching, careers in coaching, for instance, some legal matters, there is this forward energy, forward momentum taking place. And we end the month with Mercury stationing direct in the sign of Scorpio on the 29th. And this energy here is taking place at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So here, this is happening in your fifth house. So here, this is where the new moon was present earlier in the month. And this energy brings mental clarity to matters connected to creativity, personal projects, your children, the romantic side of your life, for example, any misunderstandings you may have experienced with your romantic partner, with your child, for example, or perhaps with someone in the creative industry, for instance. These can begin to resolve. And at the same time, it's also a good time for finalizing any creative ideas, for moving forward with some new ideas, for implementing perhaps some new objectives into goals or projects you are currently working on, for example. And generally, with Mercury stationing direct, there is an easier flow of energy as well. And generally, it's easier to collect your thoughts, your ideas, and any mental blockages or even creative blockages you may have experienced during the retrograde phase of Mercury, these also begin to dissolve. So thank you very much, Cancers. And let's have a look at Leos. Leos, welcome to your monthly horoscope for November 2025. We start with Mars moving into Sagittarius on November the 4th into your fifth house. So here, Mars brings a lot of energizing energy here into the area of creativity, romance, children, personal projects as well. So you might find yourself feeling really motivated throughout the month of November, motivated to work on some important projects, goals, creative ideas, for example. This energy also gives you a boost of energy when it comes to and the romantic side of your life, and it brings a lot of passionate energy into love, into romance as well. This could also see you starting some new projects, launching perhaps some new initiatives, and this energy brings more courage to put yourself out there in the spotlight as well. But however, be mindful during this time of making any impulsive decisions, especially since Mercury is retrograde throughout the majority of the month. So as we move forward, we've got a full moon in Taurus happening on November the 5th, and this full moon activates your area of the 10th house. And this is happening at 13 degrees of Taurus. So here, the 10th house deals with your career, reputation, long-term professional goals, your public life, public image as well. So here, full moons bring awareness, clarity. This could see you perhaps receiving a recognition, feedback, some important results of any projects, goals, ideas you've been working on. This could be also connected to a potential end or a culmination of some important goals, ideas, efforts in your public life, professional life, for example. It's a good time for reassessing your career direction. If something is out of alignment, it will become more visible, noticeable as well, giving you a chance to address what's working, what isn't, what needs to be revised and adjusted, for example. All right, so with this full moon is also about finding a healthy balance between your career objectives and your inner security, inner emotional safety and security. Now, Uranus leaves Gemini on November the 8th, and it moves back into Taurus for the very last time before it fully establishes itself in Gemini in 2026. So, with Uranus leaving your area of friendships and future goals and plans and moving back into your area of career, this generally this energy here, where also we've just had a full moon in Taurus here as well. So this in a way signals the end of a major phase of your life. So over the last 7 to 8 years, you may have experienced some major unexpected shifts, dynamics, disruptions in your area of public life, your career. And here now is a time to integrate the lessons that you have learned, the experience that you went through over the last 7 to 8 years from those sudden, quick, unexpected changes in your area of public life and career. So moving forward gradually, this energy brings more stability. You might feel more secure in your professional world, in the public area of your life. But at the same time, even if there are still disruptions in your area of career, internally, you've experienced quite a bit here in the area of career, public life in the recent years. So this also gives you this inner confidence to deal with any potential disruptions. And this energy also makes you feel ready to move forward with new ideas, with more innovative ideas that you can implement to your future goals and career objectives, for example. Now, as we move forward on November the 9th until the 19th, Mercury will be retrograde in Sagittarius. This retrograde ends in Scorpio and it starts in Sagittarius. So it starts on the 9th and ends on the 29th, but from the 19th it will be in Scorpio. All right, so here with Mercury turning direct in Sagittarius, and that's your fifth house. This energy is about here where Mars is present, by the way, as well. This energy is overall great for reviewing, reassessing any important projects, ideas, goals of connected to your hobbies, your interests. Perhaps you might be reviewing, reassessing your parenting style, for instance, your romantic side of your life. So try to avoid launching any new projects during the month of November, or perhaps try to avoid making any major commitments in the area of love during the month of November. If you can, try to delay them or just extend the friendship phase of this particular connection before you are ready to move into the next level, which would be early December. This is a good time for reviewing, reassessing any of your creative ideas that you may have. It's a good time for reconnecting with your hobbies, your interests. And overall, this energy can gives you a chance to clarify what truly brings joy, what truly brings fulfillment into your life. Now, here on November the 20th, we've got a new moon in Scorpio happening in your fourth house. And on the 19th, Mercury retrogrades back into Scorpio. So during this new moon, we've got Mercury retrograde in Scorpio and the new moon in Scorpio. So when a new moon occurs with Mercury retrograde in place, it's not really good. It's kind of like contradicts with the energy of the new moon, which is about new beginnings, but then Mercury is retrograde, which indicates we shouldn't start anything new. So it's a good time for generally for working with what we already have established in our lives, for reviewing what's working, what isn't. So this is your home, your emotional foundation, emotional safety and security. So this could indicate that you might be potentially dealing with some new beginnings connected to your family, your living situation. So this new one might make you review, reassess your living situation. What's working, what isn't, what needs improvement, what needs adjustment. So you're working with what you already have established, and perhaps you're looking for ways to improve what needs to be improved, to let go of what's no longer in alignment. And it's a good new moon for resolving any domestic family related matters, for creating a more nurturing environment as well. All right, so Saturn stations direct in Pisces at 25 degrees of Pisces on November the 28th in your 8th house. So here, this is the area of transformation, shared and joint resources. And this event, so Saturn turning direct, it's a forward momentum. Saturn is regaining its strength overall. This energy brings a potential financial or perhaps emotional clarity. So what this could indicate, but potentially it could indicate that perhaps any obligations, any investments, for example, any financial, emotional entanglements, for instance, as well, can now move forward with more clarity, with more structure as well. This is an amazing time to take charge of any perhaps deeper aspects of your life, of anything that needs resolving, anything that needs to be addressed, needs a resolution overall in the area of partnerships, deep connections. Perhaps you'll be dealing with shared and joint resources within your household. Perhaps something needs to be addressed, something needs to be resolved. But here there's an easy flow of energy. So things are moving forward, but at the same time, perhaps there could be some financial rewards as well taking place for you, especially here. Saturn rewards hard work, determination, consistency. So if you've been working hard towards some financial goals, for instance, in the recent past, then here Saturn might bring some rewards and recognition as well. Now, Mercury stations direct in Scorpio on November the 29th in your 4th house. So this retrograde ends, and it ends in your 4th house in the sign of Scorpio. All right, so this is happening at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So what does it mean? It means that Mercury is the planet of communication, rational mind, rational thinking. So yet again, with Mercury stationing direct, the energies resume. There is a forward momentum, more clarity, and a better understanding of a domestic matter you have been dealing with, potentially a family situation, any misunderstandings, or maybe even delays in your home sphere now will gain a momentum, will begin to resolve. It's a good time to finalize any decisions about any family related matters, about your home, about your emotional side of your life overall, your home, your family, your parental figures even. So thank you very much, Leos, and let's have a look at Virgos. Virgos, welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So here in November, Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation, enters Sagittarius, and this is happening on November the 4th. And this is happening in your 4th house. The 4th house is the area of home, family, emotional foundations, our roots, where we come from. Mars brings a lot of energizing energy here as well. So you might feel really motivated in the month of November to renovate, to declutter, to deal with home related projects, DIYs, home improvements. It's a good time for generally for paying attention what needs to be done, what needs to be resolved within the family dynamics. But at the same time, Mars brings a lot of dynamic, impatient energy. So also watch for impatience or any conflicts within your household. Try to channel that Martian energy into constructive changes, improvements, rather than tension. So an amazing, amazing transit for renovations, for maybe you'll be moving, for decluttering, renovating. Now, bear in mind, Mercury is retrograde as well. So it's a good time for also returning to those ideas that you had in the past, things that perhaps you've been delaying and wanting to do, and there was never enough time. This is a month for finally dealing with these renovations, DIYs, whatever it is. There's a full moon in Taurus happening on November the 5th, and this full moon activates your ninth house. So here at 13 degrees. So full moons, of course, bring a major turning point, culminations, and greater clarity, awareness. The ninth house deals with travel, foreign people, foreign places, your life philosophy. This full moon brings clarity. It generally could indicate that perhaps you might receive some important news, results related to some educational matters or legal matters. For example, it's a good time for finalizing decisions about travel or higher education, for instance. Try to avoid making any impulsive commitments in this area of your life. Try to reflect first before you commit. It's a good time for engaging in activities connected to personal growth and development. Now, Uranus leaves Gemini on November the 8th. It moves into your ninth house for the very last time. So this is the final time that Uranus will come here before it moves into Gemini in 2026. So this energy, this transit in a way signals the end of disruptions, surprises in the area of travel, higher learning, legal matters. So we've just had a full moon here, and then Uranus returns back for the very last time. But think about any lessons that you have learned, especially generally lessons, experiences that occurred during major disruptions or changes that you implemented, that occurred in the area of higher learning, in the area of travel or some long distance connections, because now things, generally energies are beginning to settle. And the way this could manifest, it could manifest as you feeling more free, as you feeling more stable, as perhaps you feeling more confident, especially when it comes to also to your worldviews. You will have a better idea of your own philosophy, life philosophy, of your own life principles, of any educational goals, pursuits, of your life direction. So that disruptive energy is now finally beginning to dissolve, and here this is when you can begin to integrate those lessons, experiences, the wisdom that you gained throughout the last 7 years when Uranus was in this area of your chart. All right, so Mercury stations direct on November the 9th in Sagittarius until the 29th of November. On the 19th, it shifts to Scorpio. All right, so this retrograde will be in your fourth house. So the fourth house, of course, deals with your home and family life. And just wanted to let you know that Mars is also here. It starts at 6th degree of Sagittarius. So here, this is a time overall to review your home situation. It's a good time for returning to those projects, DIYs that you never had time to fulfill, complete, begin. So it's a good time for home improvements, for renovations, especially when it comes to ideas that were already in place in the past. Try to avoid any major decisions about your property, things that suddenly come into your mind, and don't rush with any big changes that suddenly pop up into your mind if you can. Now, if you're going to be moving during this time, make sure that you prepare in advance, that you research the removal company well, that you're sure about, how many boxes you will have, how many boxes can fit into the delivery truck. I had that issue, big issue when I was moving. The truck was not big enough and it was very stressful. So try to be one step ahead in order to avoid any unnecessary stress. Now, this is also a good time for generally for reconnecting with family members you haven't seen for quite some time, for resolving any family issues dynamics as well. Now, on November the 20th, there is a new moon happening in Scorpio, and this new moon is happening in your third house. The third house, and this is when Mercury is also here as of the 19th of the month. 28 degree of Scorpio, this new moon, so a late degree, and your third house of communication, learning, daily interactions, movement, short distance travel. So yes, so it's a good time for reviewing, for updating your website, for refreshing, for conducting research studies as well. It's a good time for diving deeper into topics of your interest as well, for reconnecting with your connections. All right, so Saturn stations direct in Pisces on November the 28th at 25 degrees of Pisces in your seventh house. So here, forward momentum and in your area of relationships, commitments. And this is generally when think about, well, think of any contracts, any agreements, relationships that may have been on hold. Generally, things begin to resume here, especially when it comes to your partnerships, close relationships, any relationship matters that were on hold will now begin to move forward with more clarity, with more structure. And this is also a good time for taking serious steps forward within any business partnerships, but also with your marriage, for example. So it's a good time for long-term planning, forward momentum, and for making lasting decisions. Because remember, Saturn is also on its way out from this area of your life, moving into the eighth house in early 2026. We end the month with Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio on November 29th, and this is happening in your third house. So here, Mercury will station direct at 20 degrees of Scorpio. Here, Mercury brings a lot of clarity, and any misunderstandings that may have occurred throughout the month of November, any delays in correspondence, if you've been awaiting some important news or a letter, Mercury could have delayed any letters, emails, decisions you've been waiting for, or a projects. Now, generally, things begin to resolve. There's a forward momentum, there is a movement, a forward moving energy, and it's a good time for taking action, for finalizing important plans, for moving forward with any intellectual projects, goals, ideas. So thank you very much. And let's have a look at the next sign. That's Libra. Hello, Libras, and welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So we start this brand new month with Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation, moving into Sagittarius on November the 4th. And this is into your third house of communication, learning, short distance travel, and movement. So this transit, this energy will likely make you feel very motivated, especially when it comes to engaging in intellectually stimulating projects, engaging with other people from your immediate environment. You might feel really stimulated to express your ideas, to share your ideas, to take on perhaps some learning projects of some kind. And this is also a good transit, especially before Mercury stations direct on the 9th of November, for dealing with projects that require focus, that require mental energy. Now, here, since Mars is also connected to very dynamic, impulsive energy, also watch for any tendencies connected to impatience or perhaps rushed communication rushed communication. So try to channel this energy into writing, into planning, into productive discussions, for example. It's a really amazing transit for presentations, for podcasting, for networking as well. Now, watch out when driving. Because with Mars in the third house, sometimes there is a tendency to drive faster than you realize. And on the 5th of November, we've got a full moon happening in the sign of Taurus. And this full moon is happening at 13 degrees of Taurus in your 8th house. The 8th house deals with shared and joint resources, deep energies, transformative energies as well. So this is the area of investment. So during the full moon, we gain clarity, full awareness, especially here for you. This will be in connection to finance, to some emotional energy situations, entanglements. This full moon could indicate a culmination, a revelation even regarding some joint finances, debts, investments, for example. This full moon brings a lot of deep transformative energy for you as well. So perhaps this could be a moment when you might have some really strong realizations. This full moon could also help you release deep energies, complex energies, what no longer serves you overall. But try to avoid making any impulsive decisions around this time, especially financial decisions. Try to reflect first, because during those moments of reflection, contemplation, this is when you gain clarity, and these moments can help you to make much better decisions. Now, as we move forward on November the 8th, Uranus leaves Gemini, moves back into Taurus, where the full moon took place on the 5th of November. So this is the very last time that Uranus is re-entering the Taurus territory, the area of course, shared resources, shared and joint resources, intimacy, transformation. This transit signals the end of unexpected financial, emotional ups and downs that took place in the last 7 years, that shaped this area of your life in one way or another. Now is the time to start to integrate the lessons that you've learned, the experiences that you've been through, and especially connected to joint financial ventures, for example, partnerships, anything to do with inheritance as well, intimate matters. So these sort of dynamics, situations, lessons that will now begin to settle, and you might begin gradually to feel more grounded, more ready to make strategic decisions regarding this area of your life. So shared and joint resources, investments, for example. Now, on November the 9th, Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius, and this retrograde will end on the 29th. However, on the 19th, Mercury will shift into Scorpio. So it starts in Sagittarius, it ends in the sign of Scorpio. All right, so this retrograde starts at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So it's important to know these degrees, especially if you have any placements around these degrees. So this is happening in your third house where Mars is present. And this is the area of communication, your daily routines, your local connections, so short distance travel. So overall, up from the 9th until the 29th, try to avoid signing any new contracts, launching major projects. Be mindful when traveling as well, especially here when I told you about speeding. This is a good time for revising, reflecting, reevaluating, especially your communication style, any intellectual projects that you're involved in, any learning projects, activities. This is a time when this is a good time for also resolving any conflicts with neighbors, siblings, for instance. It's a really good time for reorganizing your schedule. And overall, here you might experience delays in communication, messages. So patience is required during this time, especially if you feel like things are moving at a slower pace. Make sure you check your junk box. Your emails might end up there. So it's all about being one step ahead. One step ahead. There's a new moon in Scorpio happening on November the 20th, and on the 19th, as Mercury will retrograde back into Scorpio. So during this new moon, Mercury will be retrograde. So new moons are great for starting something new. However, Mercury retrograde in place is not a really good time for starting something new. So it's a good time for working with what you already have, what you have already established. So this is a good time for revising. This is happening in your second house of finances, self-worth, income. A good time for generally reviewing your finances, budgeting, spendings, outgoings, for reassessing your priorities overall. This could see you also perhaps receiving money that was delayed. It might be deposited in your bank account. This could be also perhaps this retrograde and this new moon could be also about some delayed financial promises now coming to light, discussions about your income, for example. Now, this is also a good time overall for generally reviewing your financial security, stability, and there could be some opportunities coming up later after the 29th connected to some potential new income streams, investments that may emerge in the weeks following this new moon, or perhaps this could be about something that has already been in place, discussed in the past, and here it might be that the opportunity might be more possible, more realistic at this point in your life. Then on the 29th, we've got Saturn stationing direct in the sign of Pisces in your sixth house at 25 degrees of Pisces, the sixth house. This is your area of work, health, daily routines. This is a forward momentum whenever a planet stations direct from a retrograde motions. Generally, life resumes. And this is your area of everyday life, everyday routine, structure, discipline as well. So, this retrograde overall, think about any delays that you may have experienced in the recent past, connected to your lifestyle, connected to your work routine as well, because here Saturn rewards hard work, determination, commitment. You might see any professional projects gaining a momentum. Now, this is also when you might be restructuring your daily routine, daily life. This is a good time for making lasting decisions. Perhaps if you've been working on your health routine, on your on perhaps on some health regime, now you might finally begin to see the results, the outcomes of your hard work, of your hard effort. And you will generally, you might find yourself restructuring your daily routine, daily reality in the upcoming weeks. We end the month with Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio. And this is happening on the 29th of the month. So this is happening at 20 degrees of Scorpio in your second house of finances, resources, possessions, income as well. So with Mercury stationing direct, regaining its strength, this yet again indicates movement, forward energy. Mercury is regaining its strength. So any misunderstandings, delays around money, around contracts, they now gain a momentum. They now are going to be resolved more smoothly with more ease. This is a good time for finalizing any financial goals, projects, ideas, budgeting, financial agreements. For example, if you experience some delays in this area of your life connected to your money situation, to your income, some purchases, for example, if your parcel was lost in transit, Now here there is this forward momentum, and things are moving smoothly, things are moving quickly as well. You regain the clarity you may have lacked over the retrograde phase of Mercury regarding financial matters. So it's a good time for clarifying matters of finances as well as Mercury regains its strength. We'll discuss it further and deeper in the weekly horoscopes. In the meantime, have a good month and thank you very much. And let's move into the next sign. Hello, Scorpios, and welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So we start with Mars moving into Sagittarius. Mars is your traditional ruler, the planet of action, drive, courage. And this is happening in your second house of finances, resources, self-worth. So throughout the month of November, you might feel really, really motivated to pursue some new income opportunities. There is a lot of motivation and drive that comes with that Martian energy influencing your area of finances, investments. Perhaps you'll be looking for new ways to increase your income situation, improve your income situation, for establishing financial stability. Something to watch out for is impulse spending. So try to avoid impulsive spending or taking risky financial moves. Rather, try to channel this energy into something strategic planning, budgeting, for example, because of course Mercury will be retrograde this month as well. So we'll explore it in a moment as well. But with Mars and Sagittarius in your second house, this is a very good time for undergoing financial negotiations. This is a good time for budget planning. Mars here gives you not only the drive but also the confidence to deal with the finances. So it's a great time for giving this area of your life a nice boost. On the 5th, we've got a full moon in Taurus happening at 13 degrees of the sign of Taurus. So here, this is happening in your seventh house. The seventh house is the house of relationships, partnerships, close relationships, contracts you have with other people. Full moons bring culmination, breakthroughs, but also clarity. This could indicate that perhaps some new insights, conclusions may arise regarding business, a romantic or a close partnership, for example. This could be also a turning point in your relationship, in how you relate to others. This could be also a great time for resolving any tension. And at the same time, try to avoid making any hasty, rushed decisions about commitments. During this time, it's essential to reflect before fully committing to a new goal, idea. For example, reflection brings much better understanding. So allow yourself to reflect, to contemplate here, because this full moon fully illuminates this area of your life throughout this time. Now, at the same time, the day after this full moon is exact, we've got Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, the unforeseen, returning back into Taurus for the very last time before it fully establishes itself in Gemini in 2026. So here again, your area of relationships is highlighted, and with Uranus returning back into Taurus for the very last time. This generally indicates or it signals the end of surprises, disruptions, this unpredictable, erratic energy in the sphere of partnership. So think about all the lessons, the experiences that you've gone through or that you've been through in the last 7 years in the area of relationships, and the ups and downs and the unexpected changes in your relationships. So this is a time to start to integrate the lessons that you've been through. But at the same time, as Uranus leaves this area of your life, this is when you will finally start to feel a much greater sense of stability. And generally, what you might also realize that Uranus in Taurus transit has really helped you um, understand yourself a lot through the relationship experiences you've been through. But at the same time, this could also indicate that your approach to love, relationships, partnerships has changed quite significantly. And now you are able to approach your partnerships, relationships with more clarity, more confidence, more freedom as well. Right, so Mercury turns retrograde in Sagittarius on the 9th of November until the 29th. On the 19th, it will move into Scorpio. So it starts in Sagittarius in your second house, and then it moves back into your first house. All right, so this is happening at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. All right, so that's here the retrograde, and it starts in your second house. So this retrograde, first of all, during the retrograde phase of Mercury, this isn't a good time for starting anything brand new from scratch. This is a time to reflect on your spendings, on your outgoings, on your finances, on your income, on personal values as well. Try to avoid signing any financial contracts during this time or making any major purchases. If you do, then really, really think it through. Try to keep the receipts if you can, in case you can return or exchange this item if you change your mind after the retrograde is over. This is an amazing retrograde for reassessing your budgets, your spending habits, your income strategies, even, because this is generally an amazing time for reviewing this area of your life, but also for reassessing, reevaluating what generally truly holds value for you. It's a good time for also decluttering, getting rid of things you don't need anymore. Now, on November the 20th, we've got a new moon in your first house in the sign of Scorpio. So, new moons are connected to new beginnings, new moons are connected to a new chapter, a good time for starting something new. However, this new moon is happening during Mercury retrograde, and the day before this new moon is exact, Mercury um, returns, retrogrades back into Scorpio. So this new moon is happening at 28 degrees, and then we've got also Mercury retrograde happening here as well in those final degrees of this new moon. So the first house of course, is the area of the self, your identity, the area connected to your personal goals. So this is a good time for generally for starting projects that perhaps were already a thing or on your mind before this retrograde began. So you might find yourself returning to some old ideas, projects, hobbies, interests of some kind. This is also a good time for redefining your routines, your goals, your objectives for the future. And at the same time, here you might feel like you want to reinvent yourself or change something in your physical appearance. If you can, try to delay it until after the 29th of October. It's during this new moon. Take notes, reflect, and try to perhaps avoid initiating something brand new on the day. If ideally it's easier, it's better, more beneficial to work with something that has already been kind of initiated in the past, or it's a good time to give something else, a project, idea, go, another take, another chance, for instance. All right, so here Saturn station is direct in Pisces on November the 28th, and this is happening in your fifth house. So whenever a planet stations direct from a retrograde motion, this is a forward momentum, a big one, of course. This is the area of creativity, romance, your personal projects as well, children. So this is when you might see some of your projects, some of your ideas, things that have been taking quite a long time to take off, or we're moving at a very, very slow pace. Now they will gain a momentum. They will start to move forward. You will regain clarity that you may have lacked in terms of your personal projects or your parenting style, your romantic relationship, for example. So here, whatever that you dedicated your energy efforts into in the last few months, whether it was towards some hobbies, important projects, your children, or perhaps the romantic side of your life, now here with Saturn stationing direct, you will begin to see the fruits of your efforts. This Saturn stations direct at 25 degrees of Pisces. Mercury also turns direct on the 29th, and this is the final event of the month, which I'll discuss in this video. So here, Mercury stations direct in Scorpio, and this is happening on the 29th. So this is happening in your first house and at 20 degrees of Scorpio. Right. So what does it mean when a planet stations direct, as I mentioned earlier, from a retrograde motion? This is when this planet regains its strength. So the energies are turning around and there is a rebirth taking place, a momentum, if you will. So with Mercury, the planet of communication, your thinking processes, your mindset, turning direct in your first house, this is when clarity begins to resume, especially when it comes to matters connected to some personal decisions you had to take or you're about to take, or perhaps your routines, your goals, your objectives. For example, any misunderstandings that may have occurred throughout the retrograde phase of Mercury throughout the month of November. Here, they will now begin to dissolve. It will be easier to resolve them overall. So it's a good time to move forward with any personal goals. It's a good time for making decisions about new beginnings overall. So thank you very much, Scorpios. And let's have a look at Sagittarius. Sagittarius, welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So here in November, we've got a pretty strong focus upon the area of the self, so your first house, your personal goals, but also we've got a little bit of introspective energy throughout Scorpio season, of course, and Mercury retrograde ending in Scorpio as well. But let's start first from Mars. Mars moves into Sagittarius, into your first house on November the 4th, where it will stay throughout the month of November and into December. So Mars brings a lot of energizing energy here as we begin this brand new month. Mars in the 12th house could have made you perhaps slightly more withdrawn, or every now and then, of course, especially since the Sun was also in the 12th house, especially in the second part of October. It's with Mars in the 12th house. Generally, we tend to repress a lot of that Martian energy. It's not the case when Mars enters your first house. You'll begin to feel more energized, the drive, the motivation, the need to take action, get involved, get engaged, returns. So here, Mars in your first house brings a lot of confidence, assertion as well. And at the same time, it kind of makes you feel like you want to engage in something new or ongoing. And this is an excellent time for generally dealing with some personal goals, personal projects, hobbies, interests, for example. But something to be mindful of is impatience or impulsiveness. So if this is the case, if you feel restless, if you feel like you're acting impulsively during certain situations, try to channel this energy more constructively during these times. Now we've got a full moon in Taurus happening on November the 5th, and this full moon is taking place at 13 degrees of Taurus, and Taurus, that's your sixth house of work, health, daily life, daily routines. So here, a full moon is connected to a culmination. Full moons bring heightened awareness, more clarity. So this could indicate a possible culmination or perhaps more clarity, insights, breakthroughs regarding your work projects, regarding your schedule, your routine, your health habits, your diet. It's a good time to reassess your lifestyle, your work and life balance, perhaps your health routines as well. Try to generally avoid overextending yourself because this can potentially lead to a possible burnout or exhaustion. So try to focus on sustainable improvements throughout this time. Now, Uranus leaves Gemini and moves into Taurus on November the 8th, and this is into your sixth house. So, here with Uranus exiting Gemini, moving into your sixth house for the very last time before it fully establishes itself in Gemini, this indicates the end of unpredictable changes in the area of your work, in the area of your routines, your health, your lifestyle overall. This is a time to integrate lessons, the wisdom, the experiences that you went through, and the wisdom that you gained from the experience from the last 7 years, more or less, while Uranus was traveling in this area of your life. So think about what sudden changes you went through in your everyday life, in your health routine, in your diet. What the sudden disruptions, for example, took place during this time, or perhaps what happened with your work schedule at your work, for example. So, generally, with Uranus leaving this area of your life, you will experience a greater sense of stability. You will feel more grounded as well moving forward. And at the same time, you'll be able to also generally the Uranus in Taurus transit gives you gave you this amazing ability because of the lessons that you went through, experiences. Generally, this is your chance to implement more practical routine, more sustainable lifestyle. And at the same time, this could be also connected to implementing some innovative, more modern ideas into your daily reality as well moving forward. So you could see yourself generally implementing some lifestyle changes. It's about self-improvement, sustainability. Overall, Mercury turns retrograde in Sagittarius on November the 9th until the 29th of November. On the 19th, it moves into Scorpio. So this retrograde starts on the 9th and it's at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is happening in your first house. Mercury retrograde in your first house is generally going to stimulate you, encourage you to review your goals, your objectives for the future, and any decisions that you have made in the recent past. So overall, during this time, it's not a good time for signing anything new, any contracts, any agreements, especially those that were established during the retrograde phase of Mercury. You can avoid them and delay them until after the 29th of November. If you have to sign, then of course check all the details, make sure you're happy with the terms and conditions and the small print. Read the small print. Now, at the same time, you might find yourself reconnecting with people you haven't seen or spoken to for quite some time. Overall, try to avoid making major personal commitments during this time. This phase, it's better for reflection, reevaluation, and at the same time, it's a good time to reassess your goals, your plans for the upcoming future. And at the same time, this is also a good time to clarify whether you're heading in the right direction at this point in your life or whether something needs to be adjusted, something needs to change. We've got a new moon in Scorpio happening on the 20th of November in your 12th house. And this new moon is going to take place at 28 degrees of Scorpio. Now, the day before this new moon is exact, Mercury returns or retrogrades into Scorpio. So we've got a conjunction here between the new moon in Scorpio and Mercury retrograde. So while new moons are great for new beginnings, this particular new moon could see you returning to something from the past, a goal, objective, idea. Perhaps you might be also reflecting. It's a very deep and profound new moon. First of all, because it's in Scorpio. Second of all, it's in your 12th house. So it activates the area of introspection, subconscious patterns, and spiritual growth, awakening, development as well. So it's a good time for generally for letting go, releasing any negative energies, old habits, anything that is no longer in alignment. Because, of course, Scorpio energy is connected to the transformation, a rebirth. And here we are dealing with very deep internal energies. And for this reason, engaging in meditation and spiritual practices, activities can really help you release stress, some deeply rooted feelings, emotions as well. So at the same time, this new moon is a wonderful time for disconnecting from the external chaos. Spending time alone brings a lot of clarity, the much needed clarity. So for this reason, with the 12th house activations, it's essential to withdraw, reflect, and spend time just with yourself. This is when you can really, really recharge your energies. This is when clarity returns as well. This is when you can collect your thoughts, gain the necessary insights needed for you to move forward, to take the next step in your life. Now, on November 28th, we've got Saturn stationing direct in Pisces at 25 degrees of Pisces, and this is happening in your area of the fourth house. The fourth house deals with home and family dynamics and the private area of our life, or domestic foundations overall. When a planet stations direct from retrograde motions, the energies start to move forward. Life resumes, so to speak. So here, Saturn rewards hard work, determination. So any projects, any ideas, situations that were maybe moving at a very slow pace, that were on hold, connected to your home and family foundations, they now begin to gain a momentum. And at the same time, your hard work, your efforts are now going to be rewarded depending on your circumstances. So here, generally with Saturn stationing direct overall, this is when you will start to begin to see progress taking place in your home when it comes to renovations, some plans connected to home improvements, or perhaps anything to do with structure, stability within the domestic area of your life. Now, here we end the month with Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio in your 12th house. So here with Mercury stationing direct, clarity returns. So any mental blockages, misunderstandings regarding your personal life, major life decisions you are going to take in the near future will now gain a momentum. So this is a good time as of the 29th of November to slowly, to gradually implement any insights, ideas that you gained throughout the month of November, especially the insights that you gained through your intuition, through meditation, during the time that you spent on your own. All right, so thank you so much, Sagittarius. And now let's have a look at Capricorns. Capricorns, welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So here we start this brand new month with Mars, the planet of drive, courage, motivation, moving into the sign of Sagittarius. This is happening on November the 4th, and this is happening in your area of the 12th house energies. So Mars is a planet that gives us a lot of energy. It's a very energizing transit, but in your 12th house, this energy manifests in a slightly different way because the 12th house is the house of introspection, subconscious energies, patterns, behind the scenes activities as well. So during this time, during the month of November, you might feel a really, really strong stimulation, a push, if you will, to confront any hidden energies, situations, matters, fears, even. There's a lot of generally behind the scenes work, activity taking place. But at the same time, this is a good time for completing, for dealing with any tasks that require focus, solitude. With Mars in a 12th house, you can really focus on energy when you work independently. It's not the best transit for teamwork. You can really focus and work more productively when you work on your own with this transit. Now, at the same time, watch for some hidden stress or stresses or some kind of internal tension because Mars transiting the 12th house generally represses anger. So it's really important to exercise, to release this the excess of nervous negative energy through physical activity or perhaps through meditation, walking, spending time in nature, for example. Now, at the same time, as I said earlier, it's a really good time for finalizing any unresolved issues, matters. It's a good time for inner growth, inner exploration as well. Now, on the 5th, we've got a full moon in Taurus happening at 13 degrees of Taurus. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, and this full moon activates your 5th house of creativity, of romance, of hobbies, interests, and full moons are connected to a culmination, a turning point. They bring clarity, they bring heightened awareness as well. So this could be perhaps when you might be completing, finalizing some important project. This could be a turning point in your love life, for instance. Maybe you'll be dealing with a family situation with your children. Perhaps they will need your support, your help throughout this time. Whatever the scenario, this could also indicate that some Capricorns will experience a moment of some kind of achievement. Maybe you will reach a major milestone during this time. Now, whatever the scenario, try to avoid over investing emotionally because it can drain your energies. Instead, try to reflect on what truly brings you happiness, joy. And this is energy, this full moon wants you to reconnect with your inner child. It wants you to reconnect with what brings happiness and what brings that spark into your life as well. Now, on the 8th of November, Uranus leaves Gemini, it returns back into Taurus, and that's your 5th house where the full moon took place. And this is the final time Uranus will return back into Taurus from 2026, mid 2026, more or less. Uranus will enter Gemini, where it will stay for around 7 years. So here with Uranus in your fifth house for the very last time, this energy generally indicates the end of surprises, changes, unexpected situations, events in the area of romance, in the area of personal projects, self-expression, children. So now is the time to integrate the lessons you've learned in the last 7 years, and especially connected to self-expression, to self-confidence, to your parenting style, for example, to romance, how you approach romance, for example. So here, you will gradually begin to integrate these lessons, the wisdom you learned from those lessons, and this energy here, as Uranus leaves this area of your life and moves into your sixth house, you will start to feel that there is more stability in the area of the creative side of your life, in the romantic side of your life, in the area of children. So at the same time, any personal project, your romantic relationship, for example, may gain more structure, more consistency as well. Now, Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius at 6 degrees. On the 9th of November, this retrograde starts in Sagittarius, it ends in Scorpio. So here, that's your 12th house, and then in 11th house. So, of course, 12th house, where Mars is also staying, is connected to your subconscious area of life. So this retrogrades overall will make you more introspective, will probably make you want to keep some of your thoughts, ideas to yourself. It's this is the hidden part of the birth chart. So you might become more of a daydreamer as well during this time, and daydreamer, and your dreams might be more vivid. It's a good time for journaling, for reflecting, for contemplating, and try to avoid launching anything brand new, especially anything that requires public exposure. This is a time to focus on reviewing, reevaluating, planning as well, and for also reassessing, reevaluating your inner world, your spiritual growth, development. It's a good time for returning to some unfinished projects, ideas, goals. And this is also a chance for you to gain clarity on your long-term goals. And you gain clarity through introspection, through quiet moments as well. Now, on the 20th, we've got a new moon in Scorpio happening at 28 degrees of Scorpio. At this point, Mercury retrograde is also in Scorpio at 29 degrees. So we've got a conjunction happening during this time. So new moon in Scorpio here, that's your 11th house, so your area of friendships, your networks, your long-term goals. So this could see you perhaps reconnecting with a friend from the past you haven't seen from quite some time. This could also see you reassessing, reviewing your goals, your objectives for the future, perhaps reconnecting with a group, a network as well. It might be that you'll be deepening your connection, your engagement with certain groups. This is about realigning with the right people, people who share similar goals, similar objectives, for example, similar beliefs. And this is also an opportunity for you to reconnect with perhaps some groups, some networks. And this can really lead to some really significant opportunities. So this new moon is generally connected to group involvement, your social network, social groups, your long-term goals. But this isn't about something brand new that you find, perhaps a group that you find and that you join. This is about something that perhaps you are either familiar with, you've researched before, in terms of any groups or networks, or perhaps this could be about reconnecting with a friend, an acquaintance. It's about deepening this connection, for example, giving it another chance even. Now, Saturn stations direct in Pisces at 25 degrees on November 28th, and this is happening in your third house of communication, learning, short distance travel, your siblings. So here with Saturn stationing direct, your ruler as well, this is fantastic news because this energy brings the much needed clarity, the much needed forward momentum. And this is when progress, movement, especially in work-related communication, in the sphere of learning, in the sphere of your involvement within your community, starts to resume steadily. Not quickly, but steadily. So at the same time, this is when you will also see the fruits of your work, of your efforts, especially when it comes to some contracts, some studies, some projects you've been involved in. Saturn could have brought some setbacks, delays, but with Saturn stationing direct, the energies begin to resume and Saturn brings rewards for our efforts. So if you've been working consistently and with determination towards a specific goal, idea, here Saturn will begin to reward you accordingly. Of course, Saturn is your chart ruler as well. So you also gain that momentum. Your personal projects, ideas, things like this will also start to show some really interesting outcomes. And on the 29th of November, as we end the month, Mercury stations direct in Scorpio at 20 degrees, and this is happening in your 11th house. So here, Mercury is the planet of communication, rational thinking, our mindset, and with Mercury going direct, turning direct in your 11th house on the 29th, this is when clarity, momentum returns, especially in matters connected to your friendships, to your network as well. So if you experience some miscommunication, misunderstandings in your social or professional networks, and these will now begin to resolve this and resolve and dissolve. But at the same time, it's also a good time for moving forward with any group projects, networking opportunities as well. And see that people that perhaps disappeared from your reality during the retrograde phase of Mercury throughout November, they will they will start to show up, pop up, reconnect as well. So this is also when clarity returns in terms of your social network and any ideas, goals anything that came up during the new moon in Scorpio is now going to also gain that momentum. So it's all associated with your social groups, your network, and your goals. All right, so thank you very much, Capricorns. And now let's have a look at Aquarius. Aquarius, welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So here we start this brand new month with Mercury, with Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation, moving into Sagittarius, and this is happening in your 11th house. The 11th house deals with friendships, our networks, group projects, long-term goals, long-term plans for the future. So very action-oriented energy, transit, very energizing as well. So this energy will influence your life throughout the month of November, and you might feel really motivated during this time to reach some certain milestones, objectives. This is also a good time for working with others on a mutual goal. You might see yourself joining new groups, and this could be also about a potential opportunity that may show up, connected to some project management or some group work, for example. And the only thing with Mars, of course, is also a very it generally creates a very dynamic and impulsive energy at times. So try to avoid conflicts within social circles. If you feel like things are getting slightly heated, at some point in a social setting, try to channel this energy into something productive instead. So perhaps if you feel like things are not really working well with a certain group, perhaps try to channel your energy and perhaps move into a different setting a different group, for instance, if this is the case, a different social circle. Or maybe it's time to take a break and connect with other people. At the same time, this is also a good time for expanding your network, perhaps giving a different group another go, another take. And of course, Mercury is retrograde this month, so it's not a good time for trying something brand new, but perhaps for giving a chance, another chance, a group that perhaps you tried, visited in the past when it comes to networking, for example. But overall, here Mars gives you a lot of motivation and courage and drive to reach certain milestones, certain goals. And on the November the 5th, we've got a full moon in Taurus happening at 13 degrees of Taurus, and this is happening in your fourth house of home, family, emotional foundations as well. So with a full moons bring a heightened awareness, full clarity, and this is happening in your area of and the private area of your life, the domestic life. So this full moon could indicate perhaps a possible end, culmination, revelation even that could take place regarding a family matter, your living situation. Maybe even this could be connected to the your inner emotional safety and stability, for example, as well. So it's a good time to also address what's working, what isn't working in your household, or perhaps what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed, and try to avoid making any impulsive decisions around this time, especially those regarding property purchases or perhaps some family issues. It's essential to reflect. Mercury is already in the pre-shadow period at this point, so reflection is key before taking action. On November the 8th, Uranus leaves Taurus, Gemini, sorry, leaves Gemini, moves into Taurus, into your fourth house, where the full moon took place. So Uranus here is returning back into Taurus for the very last time before it fully establishes itself in the sign of Gemini in mid 2026. So this transit signals the end of surprises, disruptions, unexpected changes in the area of your home, in the area of your family as well. So now is the time to integrate the lessons, the wisdom you've learned from the experience that took place in the last 7 months in the area of your home and family dynamics. So now any unexpected changes that took place in the sphere of your home, family relationships in the last 7 years can now begin to finally settle. So you'll begin to feel a much greater sense of stability in this area of your life. You might begin to feel more grounded in your home, in your home life. And this transit in Taurus could also see you implementing some fresh, more modern or innovative solutions to family related issues during this time. Now, Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius at 6 degrees on November the 8th until the 29th. On the 19th, it moves into Scorpio. So this retrograde starts in your area of friendships, group projects, long-term goals, and it ends in the area of career. So during this time here, remember throughout the month of November, pretty much, try to avoid signing any agreements, new, especially anything new, brand new, some new opportunity that suddenly comes up in November, and it's not a good time for starting anything brand new from scratch overall. Or perhaps if a new opportunity comes up, connected to some group ventures, it's if you can try to delay it until after the 29th of November. If you can't wait this long, really think it through, review, reassess if you can, because sometimes very often things, they don't seem as good as they sound. So for this reason, it's not good to jump too quickly into any new ideas, new goals. It's essential to reflect if you can't wait until the retrograde is over. Reflect, think it through, and then commit if you can't wait. All right, so this retrograde will also see you reassessing your social connections, your network, your friendships. You might see them from a different light, different angle. Some people might kind of disappear temporarily from your reality and return after the retrograde is over. Um, this is a very common theme. Very often, many people during the Mercury retrograde they have a strong need to withdraw, especially with if the retrograde is happening in their first, in their 12th, fourth, or the eighth house. So don't take it personally. Some people might need this time to reflect, spend time perhaps alone dealing with their own private aspects of life. But at the same time, this is also a good time for reviewing, reassessing your goals, objectives for the future. And overall, with the retrograde phase of Mercury, because Mercury is the planet of our mindset, our thinking processes. So reflection is necessary because during these moments of reflection, this is when clarity returns. And all right, so on the 20th, we've got the new moon in Scorpio. And this new moon activates your 10th house of career, professional life, public life, world achievements, your long-term goals, ambitions for the future. This new moon is happening at 28 degree of Scorpio. And at this time, Mercury is now also in Scorpio. It returns to Scorpio on the 19th of November. So we've got a new moon in Scorpio conjunct Mercury retrograde. So here, this is a time when you will be reviewing your career objectives, your long-term ambitions, your life direction. It's a good time for returning to some unfinished projects, ideas, connected to your professional life, to your career, to your life direction, especially things that still resonate. Try to avoid starting something brand new because you might change your mind after the retrograde is over. So a good time for reviewing, reassessing, and for returning to any unfinished projects, goals, ideas from the past. And if you want to launch something new, try to delay it until after the 29th, ideally. Overall, this retrograde could also see reconnecting with people that you used to work with in the past, from people from your professional world. It's a good time if you are on LinkedIn, then it's a good time for also refreshing your profile, updating your profile, for example. All right, so this is the retrograde of Mercury. Of course, this could be connected to perhaps if you've been waiting for perhaps to hear from a potential employer, or if you send out some CVs and didn't hear back, you might see people connecting with you as well. All right, so Saturn stations direct in Pisces on November the 28th. This is your second house of finances, resources, and possessions as well. So, what does it mean for you more specifically here with Saturn stationing direct? So, of course, every time a planet stations direct from a retrograde motion, this is when the energies resume, momentum resumes overall. So with Saturn stationing direct in your second house, this is from generally from the 28th and in these final weeks of 2025. This is when progress begins to resume more steadily, especially in the area of finance, budgeting, overall. So overall, with Saturn stationing direct, this is when things start moving forward again, especially with your finances, with your income, financial projects of some kind. And here in these final weeks of 2025, this is when you feel like you can finally make steady progress, especially in budgeting, in saving, in planning for the future, for your financial future. So at the same time, Saturn rewards the effort we implement when Saturn is retrograde. So if you've been working consistently on a specific financial goal or project, side hustle, then now you will start to begin to see the outcomes of your efforts. Because here, the efforts you put in during the retrograde phase of Saturn, you will now, they will likely begin to pay off. Now we end the month with Mercury, the planet of communication, our thinking processes, our mindset, stationing direct in the sign of Scorpio at 20 degrees on November 29th in your 10th house. So this is really, really good news, because this is when any confusion, any delays that you may have experienced at your work or with career related plans, or perhaps some projects, professional projects. So the energies begin to clear up. There is a forward momentum. It's a great moment to generally move forward with your goals, objectives for the future. It's also a good time for making decisions about your career, about the next steps. So basically, things at work or in your public life can start flowing much, much more smoothly. So this is really, really good news as we end the month. So thank you very much, Aquarius. And now Pisces, welcome to your November 2025 monthly horoscope. So here, this month, we've got lots of different energy. We start with Mars, the planet of action, motivation, courage, drive, moving into your area of the 10th house. The 10th house deals with our life direction, our career objectives, our goals, and our public image overall. Mars brings a lot of energizing, motivating energy into this area of your life. So you might feel really motivated throughout the month of November to take some decisive steps in your public life, in your professional life. This is a good time for pursuing any career-related goals. You might feel more assertive, more motivated, more outspoken as well. So it's an excellent time for engaging in some interesting projects. This is when you might receive recognition for your hard work. And this transit can enhance your reputation as well. However, be mindful of making any impulsive, reckless decisions and be also mindful of any impatient behavioral patterns. Try to channel this energy strategically as you can. Of course, we've got Mercury retrograde this month as well, but I will explore it in a moment. On the 5th of November, we've got a full moon in Taurus happening in your 3rd house of communication, learning, local connections, short distance travel. So this is a full moon that brings a lot of clarity, brings a culmination, heightened awareness as well. So this could be a time of some major decisions, news as well. You might receive some important news. You might have to make an important decision. This could be also regarding an important email, letter that you receive, for instance. This is a good time for resolving any misunderstandings, for finalizing some important projects, communications even. Now, at the same time, try to avoid making any hasty, rash decisions. Think before you speak or before you send an important email or a message. All right, so Uranus returns back into Taurus on November the 8th into your 3rd house, where the full moon took place on the 5th. So here Uranus is returning back into Taurus for the very, very last time before it fully establishes itself in the sign of Gemini. So this is the final phase of any sudden, unexpected disruptions, surprises in the area of communication, learning, travel. This is a time to integrate the lessons you've learned, the lessons you experienced, the wisdom you gained from any unexpected situations, messages, conversations that took place in the last 7 years. Generally, following this transit, you will start to feel that there is more stability. You will feel more grounded in your communication style, in the way that you express yourself, your ideas. This could also see you completing some important projects as well, because here with a planet finalizing its stay in a sign, especially if we look at these slower moving planets, this indicates that this is a chance also to complete something that perhaps we didn't have a chance to complete the last time Uranus left Taurus. So it's a good time for completing any learning courses, any projects as well. All right, so Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius at 6 degrees on November the 9th, and this is happening in your 10th house. This retrograde starts in Sagittarius, it ends in the sign of Taurus. Sorry, the Scorpio on the 29th. All right, so Mercury retrograde in your 10th house, where Mars is also staying throughout the month of November. This is a time when you will be generally reassessing, reviewing your career direction, your professional goals, your objectives for the future as well. So overall, with Mercury retrograde, it's not a good time for starting anything brand new. So try to avoid signing any important contracts during this time. If you have to, you have to. Make sure you read the small print, that you familiarize yourself with terms and conditions. But overall, if you can, try to avoid signing any important contracts, especially anything that is new and comes up during the retrograde. This is usually better to avoid. It's also not a good time for launching anything new, because whatever that we launch, we give birth to this brand new idea, whatever, or project. And this idea, this project will have their own birth chart as well. So the retrograde will be influencing the flow of of this project, of the energies, of how things unfold overall. So it's not a good time for launching or for starting anything brand new. This is a good time to revise, to reflect, to reassess any career-related goals, objectives, strategies, professional plans, even your long-term ambitions. This is a time to reflect, to clarify your priorities. And because this can really help you to align yourself, your professional goals with what is truly important to you. Now, on November the 20th, we've got a new moon in Scorpio happening at 25 degrees, and this is happening in your ninth house. New moons are great for starting something new, new beginnings. But during this time, we've got Mercury retrograde, and on the 19th, the day before this new moon is exact, Mercury will return back into Scorpio. So here, right. So first of all, the ninth house is connected to higher learning, foreign travel, foreign people, spiritual growth, astrology even. So this is a good time for generally reviewing, reassessing your life direction, your beliefs, your life principles. It's a good time for returning to some unfinished courses, for taking, for giving generally some ideas, projects, another chance, another go, for refreshing your memory, refreshing your knowledge, as well, for refreshing your international connections. You might find yourself traveling to a location that you have already visited in the past. Now, if you will be traveling around this time, make sure that you check your the transport, the roads, if there's any traffic on the way, if everything is on time, if there are any delays. Leave early, prepare in advance. All right, so this new one overall is an opportunity to generally to explore, to expand your horizons as well. But it's not really a good time for jumping too quickly into something new. Ideally, it's better to deal with energies, goals, objectives that we are familiar with, but maybe we never had a chance to engage in these ideas. And this new one gives this amazing opportunity for expanding your worldview, for exploring something that really excites you, but perhaps something that you are familiar with, but you didn't have a chance to dive deeper into this specific study or objective. For example, Saturn station is direct in Pisces at 25 degrees on November 28th, and this is happening in your first house. So, here the first house deals with your personal goals, dreams, objectives for the future, but also with your style, with your personal style, with your identity. And this is the area of the self. So, with Saturn stationing direct, Saturn, the planet of structure, drive, motivation, this is a time when you can start moving forward with much more clarity in your life. You may begin to feel more focused, more disciplined in how you deal, in how you approach your goals, your responsibilities, your duties, for example. So it's a great time to take charge of your life, to take control of your life. Now, at the same time, Saturn has been retrograde for quite some time. Saturn rewards hard effort, dedication. So the effort that you put in throughout the retrograde phase, especially when it comes to some personal goals, projects, they now will begin to show some really significant results, momentum. Your Saturn stationing direct and spending this final months in the sign of Pisces before it fully moves into Aries in February 2026. This is this energy helps you create stability and strength in your life moving forward before you will experience this major shift of energy in early 2026. We end the month with Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio at 20 degrees on November the 29th, and this is happening in your ninth house. So here with Mercury, the planet of our mindset, communication, transportation, changing direction. This is generally a time when clarity returns and momentum returns as well. Any misunderstandings or delays in the area of learning, in the area of your studies, travel arrangements, maybe even legal matters will now begin to dissolve and resolve. And this is a good time to move forward with any educational goals, with any travel plans, with any goals, ideas. Connected to adventure exploration, for example. So here now these energies gain that momentum, but also any confusion you may have experienced about your life direction, about whether you're moving in the right direction overall here. This is when you gain more clarity. This is when you can begin to collect your thoughts with more ease. So thank you very much, Pisces, and all the best.